3, 2, 1, 0. All engine running.
When you think about flying a rocket ship, you tend to think about the loud explosive ones like these, which get stuff into orbit through extremely high acceleration. Now, that works pretty well, and it's the way we've been doing space travel for decades, but the thing is, it has one major problem. It expends fuel super quickly, and in space, without fuel, you can't really do anything. You can't maneuver, you can't exit orbit, and you can't accelerate. Because of this, conventional rockets are actually kind of slow, due to the fact that their burn time is so short. So, what's the solution to all their problems? Ion engines. Instead of expending all of its fuel within minutes, an ion drive gives a tiny amount of thrust over a long period of time using ions, or charged particles. Ion drives ionize a neutral propellant, usually xenon, by nailing it with an electron. Hitting it so hard it loses one of its own electrons and becomes positively charged. When you do this with enough atoms, you get a bunch of electrons and positively charged ions. These positively charged ions are attracted to a high voltage grid and accelerated to very high speeds, often up to 90,000 miles per hour, by a magnetic field, which in turn propels the spacecraft. But if we leave this as is, the ion engine will generate an overall negative charge, which will cause the expelled xenon atoms to come back and negate the thrust. Therefore, we expel the remaining electrons with a very similar system to how we propelled our positive ion. Finally, we need energy to maintain a magnetic field, so we throw in a nuclear reactor or some solar panels to generate electricity. What we end up with is an engine that propels the spacecraft using tiny particles to generate a small amount of thrust over a long period of time. Even though the acceleration is slow, that's actually their biggest advantage. For one, it allows for course adjustments while in space and going in and out of orbits of planetary bodies, something that a conventional chemical rocket can't do multiple times. Another great thing about ion engines is that they're really efficient. Rockets in general take hundreds of tons of fuel to launch into space. Ion engines, however, can go with just a few hundred kilograms. The reason for this is because of the rocket equation. I'll spare you the fun rocket science, but basically it says the faster propellant goes, the more efficient it is. Chemical rockets typically propel fuel at 4 kilometers per second, while ion engines thrust them up to 90 kilometers per second. Because of their high efficiency, ion engines are able to propel rockets at multiple times the velocity of traditional chemical rockets, despite using much less fuel. Because of how well they deal with the weaknesses of chemical rockets, ion engines are most likely the best option for the future of space travel. But what makes them so promising is that we know this stuff works, we've already used it. And NASA and other space agencies are already in development of new ion drives that have been tested to work for years. So it's seeming more likely that when the first humans reach Mars, they'll be doing so using an ion drive.